international community congratulating William Ruto on becoming a president-elect. But you also said that we are getting bogged down. So perhaps you can address this first. You also said during the break, and I'm revealing our secrets, but you said we are getting bogged down on this 0.01% and not the totality of the message that these four dissenting IEBC commissioners passed yesterday.
So on the 0.01, I just want to quote Dr. Chaumbogo, who tweeted and said, two options: to convert 0.01 into a percentage first. She said this in a tweet. To use 0.01 as it is, as it's already part of a percentage. Whatever is the truth mathematically is the answer. And I found that to be a very interesting tweet, because we've said here all week, numbers are political. As Prof here was saying, the whole, and I'm actually quoting, the whole process of the vote tallying and processing is both qualitative and quantitative. Quantitatively, if you speak like what Prof, the Prof on, I've got a Prof on my right and the Prof on my left. Prof on my left was saying, because I'm a qual researcher and I actually hate percentages, because when my students go out and do research and they speak to four people, they come back and do a chart and they tell me 25%, because one out of the four people, 25% of the people agreed that ABCD. That's a qualitative problem. But if you go and talk to 1 million people and 25%, which Prof is what the Prof to my left has said. Now, 0.01% was only one issue. Correct. And that issue raised what they were calling the 142,000 votes. So that for them was issue number one. Right. Issue number two is that they said the results did not indicate the total numbers of registered voters, valid votes cast, and rejected votes. And so the argument is that the 50.4% is hanging in the air. And we've said here all week, numbers are contextual. So here the question they're raising is 50.4% of what? When that is not clear, then that number becomes, it's hanging in the air. So that was their point number two. Point number three was that the result of the presidential election appears to have been hijacked by the chair of the IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, while the regulations, and I think Prof to my right has alluded to this, there is a protocol, there's a role of agents and the role of the commissioners. So to allude and to suggest that Chebukati was being dictatorial in saying, these are the results, I don't need anybody to ask me anything about these results, we are announcing. So that again brings to the fore, what are the roles of all the commissioners? Right. And that is something I think that is going to be discussed at the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court will pronounce itself on this. And I think going forward, we are going to get regulations. What happens when there are dissenting voices, etc.
And I'm also curious to hear from Professor Sihanya. Yes. Traditionally, sorry, I have my keyboard out because you said, who was that who tweeted? Dr. Charo?
Chaumbogo.
Chaumbogo. Okay, yes. I'll look that up. But I'm curious to know, because previously IEBC has been represented in these petitions as a party. Yes. Correct. But now the IEBC is divided.
That's interesting. And that division goes back to what we've been discussing here all week. The independence, because what is happening here is that now it means that the IEBC is in itself has partisan interests. And what these four commissioners are suggesting, because we also discussed and said, their comments can be very opaquely presented. It appears that one side of the commission was pro one side and the other side was pro the other side. So that was point number three. Point number four, which will allude to point number one on the 142,000, is that results from some of the constituencies had not been announced by the time of announcing the presidential result. What that told me, my interpretation of that statement, is that if you consider the 142,000, and then you consider the numbers in these other constituencies that had not been announced, there is a potential that the difference between the president-elect Ruto and Raila Odinga was what? What was the difference between them in terms of the votes?
It was
233,000.
Yes,
and it means what they're suggesting is that if you add the 142,000 to the results that had not been announced, they have the potential to surpass the 233,000 that was the difference between the two contenders, which therefore then means that the result was prematurely announced. That was my reading of when I put the 4 points together. If we put aside the whole mathematics, or as some people were calling it, mathemagics and and all those things, putting that aside, if we are to combine these 4 points, they appear to be making a very significant statement. Again, going back to what you said yesterday, was the timing right? No. Can we go back and ask what would have been the correct timing? At what point? We have to consider that if the IEBC was partisan from the beginning, at what point would it have been appropriate for the commissioners to come out and say, by the way, we are having issues in the boardroom, we appear to be partisan right from the beginning? Would that have been the correct timing to do that?